Hello there, my name is George Dixon. I'm 60 years old, retired after decades teaching at the State University of Atlanta. I've lived a quiet, careful life, surrounded by my family, my books, and my little routines. Up until recently, I thought life had finally slowed down enough for me to breathe, to rest, to sleep peacefully. But I was wrong. You see, I had a mild heart attack a few weeks ago. The doctors patched me up, prescribed some modern sleeping pills, and told me, George, you need rest, no stress, sleep is your medicine. And for the first time in years, I believed them. I believed I was safe. Or so I thought until the night that changed everything. It started innocently enough. I woke in the middle of the night, parched, the kind of dry-mouth misery that comes after taking medication. My hand reached for the bottle of sleeping pills beside my bed, and it was empty. Now I don't panic easily, but something in my chest tightened. Something whispered, "This isn't right." I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Cynthia, my wife of 25 years. My stepson Darius normally never came around, and our daughter Naomi lived in the dorms. The apartment was silent, except for a sliver of light coming from my study. And then I heard it. Two voices, low, muffled, almost conspiratorial. One was Cynthia's, the other Darius's. And they weren't whispering about bills or the weather or anything ordinary. I froze, my heart pounding harder than it had after the heart attack. I didn't knock, I couldn't. It was like some part of me already knew the truth. They were waiting for me to be asleep. What they were doing, it wasn't simple theft. It wasn't casual curiosity. It was patient, cold, calculated. And I was right there, hiding in the dark hallway, pretending to be a harmless old man, while they rifled through my personal safe. Cynthia whispered something that sent a chill straight through my bones. George, you were supposed to be asleep. That line, those 5 words, hit me harder than any physical pain. It was as if my entire life had shifted under me. The safe, the scattered papers, the quiet terror in their movements. Suddenly, I realized the care I thought I had was only a mask. For the first time in 60 years, I didn't trust my own family. I lay there that night, staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak, every whisper, my mind spinning. They thought I was vulnerable. They thought I was weak. They were counting on me being unaware, and I couldn't let them. If you're sitting there watching this story and thinking, no way, just wait, because what happens next is something even I struggled to believe. But before I go further, if you want to see exactly how I uncovered the truth and what I had to do to survive, make sure you hit subscribe and stay with me. You won't want to miss what happens in the next chapter. It's a story that will change everything you thought about trust. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I lay there on my back, staring at the ceiling fan, listening to Cynthia's breathing beside me. Calm, steady, the breathing of someone who felt completely at ease after sneaking around her husband's life in the dark. My heart didn't hurt like it had during the attack. This time it felt hollow, like something important had been taken out of my chest and replaced with cold air. By morning, I knew one thing for sure: whatever I'd seen in my study hadn't been a mistake. Because when you catch someone doing something harmless, they're embarrassed, they're defensive, they argue. But Cynthia and Darius, they had been terrified. And fear like that only comes when someone almost gets caught doing something they believe they'll never be forgiven for. At breakfast, Cynthia played her role perfectly. She brought my coffee, cinnamon just the way I liked it, and placed my morning pills beside the cup. Her voice was sweet, almost musical. George, don't forget your meds. Routine is important, routine. That word echoed in my head. I swallowed the pills, smiling back at her while every instinct in my body screamed not to. I watched her eyes carefully. There was no guilt there, no hesitation. Only confidence. Later that morning, once she left for the grocery store, I locked myself in my study. Everything was spotless. The safe was closed. The documents were neatly stacked. The key sat right where I always kept it. If I hadn't seen them myself, I might have believed I'd imagined everything. That's when I did something that broke my heart. I called my daughter Naomi. I told her carefully, slowly. I chose my words like a man walking across thin ice. I didn't accuse, I didn't exaggerate, and still, she didn't believe me. She laughed gently and said, "Dad, you're tired. You've been through a scare. Mom would never do anything like that." I didn't argue, I couldn't. I heard it in her voice, not doubt, but pity. To her, I wasn't a man uncovering something sinister. I was an old, fragile father imagining shadows. That was the moment I understood something very important. If something happened to me, no one would question it. A heart condition, a sleeping prescription, an elderly man who needed rest. It would all make perfect sense. That's when the pattern clicked. Darius only came by late at night. Always after my pill, always when I was supposed to be asleep. And suddenly, that empty pill bottle didn't feel accidental anymore. That afternoon, I put on my coat and told Cynthia I was going for a walk. Her reaction was instant. Alone, she asked too quickly. I'll come with you or I'll call Darius. No, I said sharply, too sharply. I saw something flash across her face, just for a second, suspicion. At the pharmacy, I refilled my sleeping pills. Same prescription, same bottle, same label. But walking home, a terrifying thought settled in my mind, not fear anymore, resolve. If they thought I was asleep every night, then tonight I would let them believe it again. Because I didn't just want to know what they were doing. I needed to know how far they were willing to go. If you're still with me right now, don't look away, because this is where things turn dark. If you haven't already, tap that like button and stay subscribed, because what happened after I pretended to sleep still gives me nightmares. In the next chapter, I'll tell you how I set the trap and what I saw them do in my bedroom while they thought I'd never wake up. That evening, everything looked normal, too normal. Cynthia cooked dinner like she always did. The TV hummed softly in the background. She asked if I was tired, if my chest felt okay, if I remembered my pill. Her care felt rehearsed. At exactly 10 o'clock, she stood in the bedroom doorway holding my sleeping medication and smiled. "Did you take it, George?" "Yes," I said. That was my lie. The truth was, I hid the pill under my tongue, waited until she left the room, then spat it into the sink and flushed it away. The sound of rushing water covered everything. For the first time since my heart attack, I went to bed completely awake. I lay on my side, facing the wall, breathing slow and steady like a sleeping man. My heart was pounding so loud I was certain they could hear it through the mattress. Every second stretched, a minute felt like an hour. From the living room, the television murmured softly, one of Cynthia's evening dramas. The sound was comforting once, now it felt like camouflage. Then I heard the front door. Not opening loudly, just a careful click. Darius, my stomach tightened. My hands curled into fists beneath the blanket, soft footsteps, whispers in the kitchen, low voices, urgent and familiar. They didn't argue, they didn't hesitate. They knew exactly why they were there. After a few minutes, the bedroom door creaked open. I didn't move, I didn't breathe. The air shifted as two bodies entered the room. Darius's cologne drifted toward me, expensive, sharp, mixed with tobacco. A scent I would never forget again. "He's out," Cynthia whispered. "Good," Darius murmured. "Do it." I cracked my eye open, just a sliver. They weren't looking at me. They were looking at my nightstand. I watched as Cynthia reached for the bottle of sleeping pills, the brand new one I had bought that afternoon. Her hand hovered for half a second. Then Darius pulled something from his jacket pocket and handed it to her. Another bottle. Same label, same color, same shape. My blood ran cold. Right there, inches from my face, my wife calmly switched the bottles. No shaking hands, no hesitation, just quiet efficiency. She placed their bottle beside my bed and slipped mine into her robe pocket. "Done," she whispered. They stood there another moment, watching me, listening to my breathing, checking that I was truly helpless. Then they left. The door closed softly. The lock clicked. I waited. 5 minutes, 10. Only when I heard Cynthia settle into Naomi's old bedroom, another lie she'd always told me so she wouldn't wake me, did I finally sit up. My entire body was shaking. I reached for the bottle on the nightstand and held it in my hands, full, heavy. Whatever was inside was never meant to help me sleep. That was the moment I understood the truth. They weren't stealing from me. They weren't trying to scare me. They were replacing me, letting my bad heart do the work for them. If this story is making your chest feel tight right now, don't turn away. Subscribe and stay with me, because in the next part, I'll tell you what I did alone in that bathroom and why I realized calling the police could get me killed. I locked myself in the bathroom. Not gently, I slammed the deadbolt like a man escaping a burning building. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit on the edge of the bathtub. I turned on the faucet full blast, letting the water roar, afraid Cynthia might hear my breathing or my sobs. I stared at myself in the mirror. The man staring back wasn't a professor, wasn't a husband, wasn't even a father. He was prey. My face was pale, eyes wide, lips trembling. I looked like someone already halfway to the grave, and maybe that was the problem. They thought I was finished. I held the pill bottle up to the light. The label was mine, my name, my dosage, my doctor's signature, but whatever was inside hadn't come from any pharmacy. Something dawned on me that made my blood freeze. If I dropped dead tomorrow, no one would question it. A 60-year-old man, recent heart attack, strong sleeping medication. They wouldn't even need an autopsy. I thought about calling the police. My fingers hovered over my phone, then stopped. What would I say? My wife swapped my pills while I pretended to sleep. They'd ask for proof. They'd test the bottle after Cynthia had time to replace it again. They'd talk to her and see a devoted caregiver, worried sick about her husband, and me. A stressed, medicated old man who recently survived a cardiac event. If I involved the police too early, Cynthia and Darius would know I was onto them. And next time, they wouldn't wait. That's when my fear turned into something else. Clarity, I realized I had exactly one advantage. They thought I was obedient. They thought I swallowed whatever they gave me. They thought I would lie quietly in that bed until I didn't wake up, so I made a decision. I emptied their bottle down the toilet, every pill. I flushed evidence that could have saved me in court because I knew court might never come. Then I hid the real bottle, the pharmacy one, inside a hollow book on my shelf. An old academic text no one had touched in years. That night I returned to bed. Cynthia came in later, asking softly, "George, you okay?" "Yes," I answered, "just tired." She kissed my forehead. I almost screamed. For days after that, I pretended nothing was wrong. I took my real pills secretly. I smiled. I thanked her for her care. I let her believe her plan was working. But every night, I slept with one eye open. Because the scariest part wasn't that my wife wanted me dead. It was that she was patient. And patience like that doesn't end quietly. Once I flushed those pills, something changed. Not in me, in them. Cynthia became attentive in a way that felt wrong. She didn't just remind me about my medicine anymore. She watched me take it, watched my throat, watched my hands. "Did you swallow?" she'd ask casually. I'd smile and joke, tap my chest like an obedient patient. She'd smile back, but her eyes stayed cold. Darius started showing up earlier, not 10 o'clock anymore. 9, sometimes before dinner. He'd sit at the table, leaning back in his chair like he already owned the place, glancing at the walls, the windows, the view. One evening he said, almost offhand, "You ever think about downsizing, Pops? Pops?" I nearly choked on my water. Cynthia laughed like it was nothing. "Don't stress your father." But I saw it then, the tension. They were getting impatient. Then came the final insult. They brought my daughter into it. Naomi came over one afternoon, eyes worried, voice gentle. She sat beside me and held my hand the way she had in the hospital. "Dad," she said softly, "Mom's really scared. You haven't been yourself. You forget things, you don't rest." I felt my chest tighten. "She thinks the medicine might not be strong enough." I looked straight at Cynthia. She nodded sadly. "I just want you to sleep, George." That's when I knew. They weren't adjusting dosage. They were setting a timeline. That night I overheard them whispering in the kitchen. Darius said, "If this keeps dragging out, it's gonna look weird." Cynthia replied, "Soon, he's weak. He won't last another scare." I stood there, silent in the hallway, realizing something unbearable. They weren't just planning my death. They were planning the story afterward. Naomi comforting her grieving mother. Darius handling paperwork. The condo quietly sold. I went back to bed shaking. That was the night I decided I wouldn't wait anymore. Because the next move would be theirs. If you feel the tension climbing right now, don't drop off. Subscribe and stay with me because the next chapter is where I set my own trap and risk my life to expose them. I stopped resisting. On the surface, I told Cynthia I'd been feeling weaker. I complained about dizziness. I even let my hands tremble in front of her. Her eyes lit up just for a second before she masked it with concern. "Oh, Georgia, maybe it's time we trust the doctor more," she said softly. That night she brought the pills herself. "Not 1, 2, just to help you rest," she whispered. I pretended to swallow them. Lay down, closed my eyes, let my breathing slow. Inside, everything screamed. Minutes passed. I heard the bedroom door open, then Darius. "I think this is it," he murmured. Cynthia replied, "Wait." I felt her hand on my wrist, checking my pulse. I forced myself to stay still, slower, slower. Then something happened that almost made me lose control. Cynthia leaned down and whispered into my ear, "I'm sorry you became a burden." Burden, 25 years, reduced to one word. They stood there longer than usual, waiting for my body to betray me. When it didn't, Darius cursed under his breath. Maybe tomorrow. They left. I lay there, soaked in sweat, knowing I had only bought myself hours, not safety. The next morning, I called my old colleague. A man who still trusted logic more than appearances. "I need you to witness something," I told him. "Tonight, because if I disappeared, someone had to know why. If you're holding your breath right now, stay with me. Like and subscribe, because the final chapter will show you what happened when truth finally stepped into the room and who survived it." That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed listening, every sense alert. My heart was steady now, not from strength, but from fear-driven focus. Cynthia and Darius came, as always, confident I would be out cold. They tiptoed into the bedroom, whispering quietly about the pills, about timing, about how he won't know. I waited. As they approached the nightstand, I lunged, not violently, not yet, just enough to catch their attention. My hand gripped the bottle of real pills hidden beneath the blanket. Cynthia froze, Darius's jaw tightened, their confidence cracked. "You what?" Cynthia whispered, panic creeping into her voice. I never took the ones you swapped, I said slowly, my voice low but deadly calm. Every night I've been awake, watching, listening, counting. The realization hit them like ice water. Their plan, perfected over weeks, was exposed by a man they thought weak and oblivious. Darius took a step back, eyes darting. You knew. Yes, I said, and I know why you did it. Their faces were pale, the shadows of guilt and fear mingling. For 25 years I thought I knew the woman lying beside me, but tonight I saw the truth. Cynthia's devotion had been a mask, her care a weapon, and Darius, the stepson I tried to welcome into my life, had been the willing accomplice. I reached for my phone on the bedside table. My fingers trembled, but not from fear, from resolve. I've called Naomi, I said, my voice steady. She knows everything. The police are on standby. And any move you make will be witnessed, recorded, undeniable. Cynthia's lips quivered. Georgia, please, don't, I interrupted. You counted on me being asleep. You underestimated me. That ends tonight. For a long moment the apartment was silent. Only the soft hum of the TV in the living room remained, trivial, meaningless. Then Darius muttered, almost to himself, we didn't think he'd fight back. No, I said. You thought you'd end me quietly, but you forgot one thing. Even a man who's broken can be cunning. By morning, everything had changed. Cynthia and Darius were restrained and under watch. Naomi arrived, shocked, unable to comprehend the betrayal, yet grateful her father had survived. I stood in the living room, holding the pill bottle, staring at the light filtering through the windows. The fear, the paranoia, the nights spent pretending to sleep, it had all led to this moment. And I realized something: trust once broken is never fully restored, but survival is a choice. One you must fight for no matter how much you love the people around you. So here I am, 60 years old, retired, scarred, but alive. And I'm telling you this because sometimes the people closest to you may not be what they seem. If you're still listening, I need you to subscribe and share this story, because everyone deserves to hear it, and maybe, just maybe, it will help someone realize that vigilance can save their life. And always remember, never take your sleep for granted. You never know who's waiting for you in the dark.